Hola, mis hermanos! Welcome back for another edition of High Trust, Low Context, long-form interview show that aims to help us rebuild a high-trust society by using direct, low-context communication. I'm your host, El Chaco, and with me tonight, we've got another awesome guest. He's the creator and curator of Sensus Fidelium, a channel that features all of the best, hard-hitting, honest, truthful, and super-based Catholic homilies, talks, lectures that you can find on the entire internet. And he's also the host of his own freeform podcast, the Resistance Podcast and Clown World, or maybe I got that right. Clown Planet. And I'm very honored to have with me tonight Mr. Steve Cunningham. Welcome to the show, Steve. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for having me.
Hey, I wanted to get you on because when I had my reversion back in 2017, a big part of it was going to my old parish and finding homilies and kind of quickly substituting all of the podcasts I was listening to with the priests' homilies from my church. And they were great. Like I actually got lucky. I had one of those unicorn Novus Ordo parishes for a while. And actually one of our priests actually got canceled on a national level across Canada for one of his hard-hitting homilies. But I remember in that process, I was burning through all those homilies so quickly. And I was one day, I don't know, we can call it divine providence. I mean, maybe I was surfing around. I was on 4chan and somebody put a link on there to your YouTube channel. And everything changed after that. Everything changed. I mean, I learned so much more about the faith just by going onto your channel. And that's where I discovered some of my favorite priests, some of my favorite preachers, Father Chad Ripperger, I discovered through you, Father Wolf, Father Isaac Maria Aurelia, a whole whack of them. And actually one of the things that's really great about your channel is that the priests aren't seeking clout. And so a lot of times you don't know who the priest is. You just kind of get a little bit more familiar with the voice. And, so we'll be clicking on these all the time. And for my family down here, so I'm in Paraguay right now. And so going to mass, we don't always understand the homily of that day. But thankfully we found the traditional Latin mass through listening to homilies on your channel. And what we'll do sometimes is I'll actually download the audio and we'll listen to it in the van on the way to mass or on the way home from mass so that my kids can get some good catechesis and get some good teaching. So maybe tell us a little bit about how you created Sensus Fidelium. What was the story behind when you got that going, and how did you get linked up with so many amazing priests?
Well, if I told you that the goal was what it is now, I'd be lying to you. I remember being in Columbia, South Carolina, working for AT&T at the time, working out at a little apartment rental house with a buddy of mine who was 500 pounds. And I would work out in the living room. It was just one of those just 2-bedroom apartments. My mattress was literally on the ground. It was nothing spectacular. I think I used a box for a dresser. And I would work. I didn't have money to go to the gym, so I just did it in the living room. But I would turn on. I came back into the faith already, and I got tired of all the other things. I found these sermons on somebody else's channel at the time, mm-hmm. And it would say FSS pre-priests, and then it would go into it, and it was well done. I would listen to it while I was doing that, and I was okay. And there was only about 8 of them at the time. And so I put Thomas Woods on later. I was like, what can I do? I'll put Dr. Thomas Woods on. He had the
Woods, yeah.
Yes, the builder
libertarian guy. I listened to him as well. Yeah.
The EWTN series. And I let it go from there. I remember putting those up, and That was back in the day when you had the 14.59 second limit on videos. So you had part 1, part 2, part 3, and those. If you looked at those, if you remember those, it was 14:59, 14:59. If there was ever a part 3, it was like 8:26 or something like that. Part 3 was always
How long ago
small.
was that?
I'm sorry?
What year was that? What year was that?
2011, 2012-ish. Yeah, somewhere around then.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's
so you were a good 5 years in when I had my reversion. That's awesome.
When you can tell time by the YouTube part 1, part 2, part 3s.
I don't think I've encountered any of those, honestly. I think I've I know I went pretty deep in the backlogs though with a bunch of them, because actually you mentioned about working out. I many times did I work out to Sensus Fidelium homilies and lectures, and going real deep with some of them. But
well, I was like, I was listening to them on I'd just listen. I'd lay on the couch and turn on an MP3, and my hair would stand up when I heard something like, holy cow, that's what I remember that happening. I wonder if that happened. But it wasn't until about a couple years later that I moved back up to Spartanburg, South Carolina, outside Cowpens, and Greater Glory. The movie Greater Glory is coming out.
For Greater Glory, fantastic film. Fantastic.
You'd be surprised how many people have no clue about that movie. I mean, from EWTN people to your regular Joe, there's plenty of people have never even heard of that movie.
Really? Because I
talked to a guy from EWTN, a very big name person, and he had no clue about that movie.
So here's the thing about when my wife and I try to watch movies, we do a lot of kind of vetting ahead of time, because there's a lot of garbage out there. And I remember when I first came across that one, and there's this thing that happens in a lot of these quote unquote Catholic movies or quote unquote religious movies. And very seldom do you see a confession, and even more seldom do you see someone receiving communion or a mass. And that movie had all of it. And that is an absolute, I recommend For Greater Glory to any of the listeners out there who are catching this. It's that movie is phenomenal. And I didn't even know anything about Mexico, and like that history is quite dark and deep. And
I was driving Uber in Denver, and I had a guy in the car from Guadalajara, and we were talking. We had 40 minutes in the car, so we were chit chat like I always do, and found out he was from Guadalajara, and asked him about the movie, because that was ground zero for the Cristeros, and he never heard of it. He actually looked it up on his cell phone on the way. He watched the movie trailer right before he got the drop off of the terminal, and he was asking for baptism when we were passing the. They called it Blucifer, the blue horse with red eyes.
Oh, in Denver, yeah.
So he was talking about getting baptized in the car. Where we were like, dude, when you get home, he goes, there's a Catholic church right across the street from where I live, St. Luke's, never forget it. And I said, dude, just go across, go take care of it. I mean, I don't know if he ever did or not, but yeah, it's amazing how many people do not know it. But that was the number one. We went to a movie theater, and there was 5 people in the theater, myself, my brother, a friend of mine who died a couple of years ago. And then the other couples were 9,000 years old. I think they knew Moses, and that was it. And I remember a father's sermon on the Cristeros was about 36 minutes long. I go, me being an idiot, thinking I was going to change the world with one video. I was at night, and still am. But we were marketing that, and we were just terrible marketing. I was like, this is the best we could do. Nobody's showing up. And so I figured if I put that video out there on that sermon, that people might go to the movie. And took me about 6 beers to figure out how to do it. I was texting friends up. I know this can be done. How do you do it? I mean, I am not a tech guy. So when you ask me to do this, that, or the other, I go, it's an act of God that I've done this much. I still use Microsoft Movie Maker, the free version, it's going on 11 years. So, people make all these cool stuff, and I wish I could do it. I have no clue. So that was video number 1. It was terrible resolution. It was just a bad production of a video. But that was number 1. And after that,
I hope some seats were filled because of your efforts on that one. Because I know,
idea. No, I think about 10 people watched that.
I bought that movie on DVD, and I had to get it on eBay because it was hard to get. You couldn't even get it on Amazon, and it's a hard one to find for some people. But man, is that a good movie? That is a great movie.
Very
My
underrated.
wife is actually my wife actually bought, I don't know, I think it was from Tan Books. There was a Martyrs of Mexico book, and it touches on that. And I don't think a lot of people realize how close, the enemy can come to really shutting things down. And we've learned
just
a
look what
lot
last
of
week
crazy
Mexico
stuff.
just declared, federal government declared abortion legal in all the 20 states down there. It is their little fatwa, just check off a centralized government like we have. Just told the states to go pound sand, and all the 20 states didn't want to do it, but they're still under that same constitution then.
That is crazy. And I mean, a lot of people will say I'm throwing a tinfoil hat on, but the Freemasons had quite the influence over what happened in the Cristero era. And then on top of that, I mean, they have quite the influence across all of Latin America. I'm down here in Paraguay. We moved here in 2020. Well, we originally moved here in 2013. We lived here from 2013 through 2015. I still wasn't back in the church then, and I didn't quite appreciate the Catholic culture that is here in Paraguay until now. But we ended up leaving Canada again, because we went back to Canada, and then we came back down again in 2021. And I don't know if it got to you, but there was quite the scandal up in Canada, and they were talking about we had what was called the residential school system, where they would have the First Nations Aboriginal people placed in the schools, and they were, trying to help out and do what they could. And there was this discovery, what they claimed to being mass graves. But then even just recently, we had our doubts. It seemed a little fishy when it came to, being
Complete
able to
hoax.
actually look at the stuff.
Yeah.
And now it's been fully debunked, but it doesn't matter.
I remember
in
that
Canada,
story came out a couple of years ago, and Lauren Southern and others were calling out, going, "This is garbage, guys. This is not what's going on." But no one was listening to those people.
And what ended up happening is that the anger and vitriol against the Catholic Church ramped up, and the government was feeding it. It was feeding it. The government in Canada unanimously, all parties, even the quote unquote conservative party, decided that we were going to call it a genocide. And we had the Pope come in, and it was just heaping on shame upon shame upon shame at the Catholic Church. And I saw the writing on the wall, and I said to my wife, this was in May of 2021. I said to my wife, there's some really bad things happening here in Canada. I mean, Canada historically has been a bit loosey-goosey on especially how it lets people persecute the faithful. But we had just come through a year of, as one of my favorite priests in Canada, yelled about. He said, we witnessed the Pope, our bishops, all turn their back on our Eucharistic Lord by shutting the doors for quite a few months. And when this scandal came in, there were attacks against the churches, and our church was vandalized. It had been vandalized a few times before, but it was vandalized worse this time around than any other time. Broken windows, paint all over the walls. There was in 1 month, I believe there was 24 Catholic churches burned to the ground in one province, in my province of Alberta. And what sickened me was that the Canadian government was kind of egging this on. They were saying, well, it's understandable. We don't condone the violence, but we can understand the anger. And it didn't help anything at all. So I had actually, I was in the midst of doing a consecration to St. Joseph. And I remember, because I had done the podcasting thing before, and I had done, I had a television show down here, and I've taken my stab at writing some books, and I took it to prayer, and I said, Lord, let me know what you want me to do. I mean, this crazy stuff is happening. What do you want me to do? And, you know, I'm not a prophet. I won't claim to be anybody who has a hotline or anything like that. But when I get messages, when I get a little bit of a nudge, so to speak, it's pretty clear. And I closed my eyes and I said, what do you want me to do, Lord? Do you want me to write a book? Do you want me to start another podcast? Do you want me to do a documentary? What do you want me to do? And all I saw was a very clear image of my son's face. And the message I got was just 3 words: keep him safe. And I pondered on that one. It was okay, but how? Now, when we came down to Paraguay the first time, I started a show. It was critically acclaimed. We did great, but we couldn't make the money back to make it work. So there was always this thing in the back of our heads, kind of like, what was that Paraguay thing all about? So I'm always wondering, like, what was that all about, Lord? Like, that was really weird. And the next day I go to the reading for this, and it was the flight into Egypt and Joseph taking Mary and Jesus into Egypt, and clear as day, that's what it was.
You went the wrong way if you were trying to get to Egypt.
Nah, yeah, exactly. But I knew what he meant. This was the Egypt, because the thing is that I went to a very Catholic country, very Catholic country. And we don't get a lot of press down here, and I love that. And for example, here, I'm just going to pull up. So we just had an election a few months ago, and the new president came in, and his very first speech came out full-blown, said, life begins at conception. Marriage is between a man and a woman. You are either born a man or a woman. And this is a country where abortion is illegal. Homosexual unions are illegal. And you can't give kids hormone blockers or any of that kind of stuff. And this just came in the news yesterday. So the guy's name is Santi Peña, who's our new president down here. And he was offered it says here, about a European Union donation that was offered to him in exchange for adding gender studies to the school curricula. And he turned it down. He insisted that Paraguay will always negotiate without compromising its sovereignty, its territory, its values, or its culture. Our foreign policy is based on respect for national interests, effective diplomacy, the promotion of trade and investment, national security, and this is the big one, and the promotion of our values and interests. This is a Catholic country. Not a lot of people realize Paraguay is one of the most Catholic countries in the Western Hemisphere, still to this day. And you can tell by its laws. And those laws you can't find anywhere else. And I think it was on a talk that I listened to on your channel. And I think it was Father Wolf. But he mentioned about Sister Lucia of the Fatima miracle. And in her later writings, she spoke about what she called the sins of a nation. And that was something that always stuck with me, because I always said, you know, Canada, almost more so than the United States, is a very sinful nation, very sinful nation. Again, they push all kinds of laws about we don't have freedom of speech in Canada. That's a big thing that people don't realize. Canada does not have freedom of speech. Some of the stuff that I'm saying right now would probably get me arrested at the airport if I came back for a visit. But the thing that got me was when I looked at it. So my tax dollars would pay for abortions. We had what they call bubble zones around the abortion clinics. So you can't even pray within a block and a half of these bubble zones of the abortion clinics. We've got fathers put in prison for misgendering their daughters. We've got euthanasia being pushed on people. I mean, pushed on people who are suffering from depression. This is the opposite direction that we should be going on, but this is what Canada's doing. And so, you know, when I came back down here, it was a major moment for all of us, because all of a sudden when we are driving down the street, you know, street names are named after saints. There's statues all over the place, which would drive Protestants nuts. but this place, for example, there's a beatified nun, Blessed Chiquitunga is her name.
Mm-hmm.
She's on a road to canonization. And I'll never forget that when we first moved here, there was a commotion. It was a Wednesday morning, and the news had it on that her relics were taken to the Vatican, and they had just returned to Paraguay. And so there was a procession from the airport. It was with the fire departments. It was with the police. It was with the military. It was with like a big marching band, fireworks. They closed everything down. And all I could think to myself was, you would never, ever see this in Canada or the United States. And so you're in South Carolina, correct? Are you still in South Carolina?
Oh, sorry. North Carolina now. Yeah.
You're in North Carolina. Okay. My good buddy, who was my co-host on my last podcast, he's just outside of, he's, I think, about 2 hours north of Charlotte. Have you heard of Statesville?
Yep. Yeah, I know Statesville.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I went and actually visited him down there, I think in 2019 before the world ended. And it's a good area there. I'm sorry.
South Carolina is my home state. Born in Florida, but grew up in South Carolina.
Oh, okay. Well, North Carolina is a beautiful place, and actually underrated. I'll never forget. We were staying in Raleigh, Durham. Or the first night we stayed in Durham. Then we went out, and I drove out to Statesville. And it's this interesting thing when you're driving out to Statesville. The billboards are so different than what I'm used to back home, because it's very different. I mean, you've got billboards about pro-life billboards, and it's like pro-life biscuits, pro-life biscuits, pro-life biscuits. And the whole time I'm driving there, I'm going, I could live in a place like this. This place is awesome. But it's a heavily Protestant state. We're in the New World, so Canada and the United States are very heavily Protestant areas. So it's a very interesting experience to be down here in Paraguay, because now I'm in Catholic Central. Like the Protestants are having the same sort of feelings that I would have back home. But let's go back to Sensus Fidelium and the creation of it. How'd you get lined up with some of these just incredible priests along the way? Was it kind of a word of mouth between them? Because you just get the best ones.
There was an MP3 website that I was listening to at the time, and that's where I was getting the listen to those, and I was download, and I was thinking, well, let me go in and just put them up on YouTube. Let's get more people watching, because I know the quote unquote trads, they know the website. Sure, maybe a handful. Let's get more. And
okay,
let's see if we can go fishing. And then they didn't
get that wide net out.
They didn't think it would be a hit. It turned out to really kick off. And that was back in the day when, 20,000 subscribers, maybe. I don't know. I never kept up with the subscriber count, but it wasn't a lot. And then there was a group, in Texas. I found out, a friend of mine calls me up, says, hey man, there's a group out there trying to take you down. And I go, okay. And I knew the parish, and I knew the priests. I didn't know them, but I knew of the priests, and I contacted all of them. And they were all out of town. That come to find out, and they all wrote back, "You're good in my book." And then my bud Ryan Grant, I was helping him out with mediatrics. We're just promoting him, and he texts me up. He goes, "I can get Father R to hit them up too." So they stopped and back up that you're good within his book too. I go, all right, cool. This is a blessing in disguise. It ended up becoming. I literally that was the day I consecrated the channel to St. Anne, and for some reason she's a patron saint of like videos and things like that. And then it all came out, and that's how I started contacting. So it was a good thing that happened. and they got shut down. They got their little plan stopped. But yeah, that was how it was. Because I was in South Carolina, I had no clue who any of these guys, much less where they are or what they look like. They could have come up and slammed me across the face with a brick. I wouldn't know who they were. And I mean, we're talking South Carolina is the second to least Catholic state in the union, and it's like 2% Catholic. So I mean, you're lucky if you live in a place that has a decent mass going on, much less what like Kansas City has 8 trad masses in one place plus this and plus Byzantine, whatever. No, you have one in the county maybe, and it was so it was gold for us. Is the people like here. I went to the Eucharistic Congress in North Carolina, Charlotte last week, and people come up to me and goes, "It's so cool that you're one of us. You're from here." And I go, "Yeah, because most of the guys are in California, Texas,
Nebraska.
New York, you get the big states, but Dixie doesn't have anybody backing them up."
So I gotta ask, Father Ripperger. I mean, he's kind of blown up. He's the superstar, I would say. I mean, I remember there was a Facebook group, and I think it said like half of my hard drive half of my hard drive comes from Father Ripperger. Yeah. You were able to feature him. Tell me about when you first featured Father Ripperger, and then how you met him.
He was just another priest. He was just in that section of MP3s, and there was 4 or 5 of the original guys, maybe 6, and he was just another voice to me. And I don't know. I don't get all excited. I grew up with going to pro games and getting autographs from all these athletes. And when I was, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, going to hotels in Cincinnati and, meeting the Giants and the Dodgers and San Diego Padres. So guys that are in the Hall of Fame, and we're going up to 10 saying, "Hey, can I have your autograph and a photo?" and all this. And a ton of those guys. I mean, from Pete Rose all the way down to Will Clark and everyone in between, and St. Louis Cardinals and Reds. And so there's just like another priest to me, and really, to be honest. And so when we go to conferences and all, and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, like you can't believe you hung out with Father Har." I'm going, yeah, he was me $5. But no, he was. I joke saying he's helped pay the rent, and I made him famous.
It's a mutual relationship there.
Yes.
I'm telling you, man, like my formation has largely come from your channel, and it's true. I mean, and I've passed along your channel to so many different people. If anybody's wanting to learn about the faith, that's a great place to start. I mean, there's something for everybody there. Mm-hmm. There's really something for everybody. I listen to a whole bunch of like conferences on how to be a man, and it's
I just think most people don't know it exists still.
That's bizarre to me, and it's still, I'll meet Catholics that have never heard of it, and I still am telling them about it. But I wanted to get you on here because I know we're just starting off over on this show, but at the same time, people are going to go through those back catalogs, and they're going to come across this one, and they're going to know at some point in time, oh, I want to check out Sensus Fidelium. And Sensus Fidelium, if you maybe explain to our listeners, it's Latin, and describe what the meaning of Sensus Fidelium is.
Sense of the faithful is Leo XIII has in a lot of his encyclicals, but it's sense of the faithful. But yeah, no, I'm with you. I learn every time I put something up. We got 9,000 videos right now. Wow. I joke with people saying, I compare what I got to Formed, and only 2 parishes in the world promote me on their website. Most parishes promote Formed, and for Formed for the season of Lent, I have more videos for the first Sunday of Lent than they do for the entire season of Lent, and that's not even getting into what day of the week it falls in with the saint sermons. I mean, there's some days during Lent that I got like 50 videos I could put on the front page of the website, and there's 11,000 links on the website.
You've got probably just like a horde of them just waiting to go at some point in time too. You probably,
if I drop over dead, you wouldn't know, because I have 3 years of content that's scheduled to come out.
Wow.
on every day of the week from here for till 2025.
Now, so to people who are maybe not, or maybe new to traditional Catholicism, and I played the thing at the beginning about Vatican II, and what a lot of people don't realize is that for the traditional calendar, it's the same cycle every year. So, for example, when we were getting ready to go during Lent to go to Mass, it was very easy for me, even ones that you put up years ago, to look up a third Sunday in Lent, fourth Sunday after the Epiphany. You know, like they're right there, and I can pull off whatever I need for that particular day. It's funny because I actually will bring with me. I've got a book. I think Tan Publishing has this one, but it's the complete Sunday sermons of Saint Alphonsus Liguori. And it helps me out so much because I'll try so hard to listen to the priests in Spanish. But if somebody's coughing or if there's any kind of a distraction, I'm losing it. Because a lot of my Spanish is okay, but there's nuances that you can miss. And if I miss a few words along the way and I'm trying to jump back in, I'm lost. So I just bring this red book with me every Sunday. And as soon as I've lost, and I mean, my only option for the Latin Mass in all of Paraguay, well, technically there's two options, but one we won't go to, it's just the SSPX. Now in Canada, I was going to the FSSP, and it's my preferred group to go with. But you know, if I'm going to pass along the Latin Mass to my children and keep it going in the family, we need that exposure. And here in Paraguay, we actually have to share our SSPX priests with another church in Corrientes, Argentina. So we will go 2-3 weeks without a Mass to go to in between. So in order to, we really had to kind of pray on this and figure out, what are we going to do? Yeah, we're in a Catholic country, but you go to some of these Novus Ordo masses down here, and they put our clown masses up north to shame. You know, they are really, really irreverent. It's sad, but it's true. And so we've fallen in with, in between, we go to the heralds of the gospel, which are, I call it like the, you know, have you ever, you've been in, you said you lived in Florida for a bit. Did you just say that? Yeah. So
there, yeah.
I've one time gone to Florida, and I remember going to Epcot Center. And when I was at Epcot Center, there was these pavilions for different countries. And I remember going to some of these pavilions and going, well, it's sort of like Canada, but sort of not. I'm not sure what it's kind of the cartoon version of Canada, I guess. All right. And you go to the Brazilian one, or you go to the German one. It's like, it's this kind of not authentic, but you can see where they're going with it. And so with the heralds of the gospel, they're like trad light. You go in, and it's this beautiful, gorgeous, massive church. I mean, the money that's flowing into these guys, I have no idea where there's no other church like it in Paraguay. These guys dress up in this garb. They got these military boots, and it's this weird aesthetic where, you know, the altar server boys are wearing, they almost look like Prince Harry or not Prince Harry, but Prince William's kids. You know, they got the red and the sash, and it's like, okay. But the point is that we go there because they have an altar rail, and or communion rail, and we can receive communion on the tongue. Actually, it's funny because I had not listened to your voice until a little later on. I discovered that you had your own podcast, and I'll never forget you on one occasion. You were talking about when you go to when you're in another town, and you got to go receive communion, and we do the line jumping, you know, of that's not where we want to go. We want to go with the priest, and I remember I'm pretty sure it was you who said you would go up, you would receive communion, and then knowing that the particles of our Lord would be on the floor where everybody else was carrying it in their in their filthy paws, as they would say, you would turn around, do a complete 180, and just walk back up the middle. And I stole that move. I've been using that move every time I go to any foreign church. To me, that's if we go up for communion at all at some of these places when it's so irreverent. But going back to it, one of the things that I've also really liked about your channel is I can trust it. And this show is called High Trust, Low Context. And I always ask my guests the same question. I'll ask you it before we're done at the end here. But trusting these things is so difficult these days. And you brought up about Formed, right? And there's some good stuff on Formed that I've seen. There's some good stuff on EWTN that we've watched. But you never know coming into it. You just never know. Sometimes it's going to be super modern and it's going to not jive with not only my beliefs, but with church teaching in general. And so one of the things that I've really been impressed by your channel with is how you're able to vet these priests, because you're only having really good priests on. Nobody's teaching any error on Sensus Fidelium. How do you go about the selection process? What makes it and what doesn't? I'm sure you've probably tossed a couple of MP3 files and said, maybe not this one.
It's because I don't trust anybody else to do it. I listen to every one of them and make sure the heebie-jeebies, my Sensus Fidelium, doesn't spidey senses don't tingle. Okay. So yeah,
I'm going to ask then. Do you speak Spanish? Because you have a Spanish channel.
I do have a Spanish channel. I have a priest friend that does a lot of the sermons, and I'm going to use some AI to translate the entire channel. It's going to take a while.
Very cool.
And put some subtitles on. I can actually clone some voices if I wanted to, but it would take forever to do that.
Right.
So I might just do the subtitle route, because I also got German, Italian, Korean. There's a program I can get like 8 different or 20 different languages at once off one video. I could just upload. So time wise, I might just do subtitles. But yeah, I have a friend of mine that reads the Butler's Red Garanger, and another priest that does some sermons. And I personally know the people that do it. So I don't just say, hey, anybody that runs in and goes, hey, can I send this in? I go, yeah, great, cool. First, is it okay? You have permission to send it, and 2, let me look it over, and then I'll go from there. Because I'll get requests all the time to put something up, and I go, yeah, let me look first. And
yeah. So do you have priests then that are clamoring to get their sermons out there more than others? Or
well, there's a lot that have seen like there's one group start putting them up, and they saw an increase in donations and seminarians. So they're all for me keeping going. They'll send more to me, and they worked out a deal to put exclusive on mine, but then they wanted to put on theirs too. And YouTube doesn't like having the same video on 2 different channels. So I thought, you guys just leave that on. I'll keep the ones we're doing now, and you guys just put that on yours. It still works. And you still so I get a lot of that, because people see they see the ROI, because you're coming into almost 300,000 subscribers right off the bat, instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, keep it on your thing. Let's go on the one that's, getting big. And yeah, sure, you might not get the knowledge that you're doing it by yourself, but you're going to see a lot of, not say fame, but you're going to see some responses knowing that it's you. And I'll link their sites, I'll link their order, I'll link, here, check underneath, here's where you get more of them, here's the website it came from. So whatever they can reap the fruits off from that, they will. I mean, I know that, here, the diocese here, they got 50 something seminarians in. Most all of them are fans of the channel. Even South Carolina has quite a few. I think they have quite a few, decent for them seminarians. They're all mostly fans of the channel. The traditional orders, they all are fans of the channel. So they're going to come in, they're going to hear this and just get pounded away with either. I mean, how many playlists I have? A couple hundred now.
Yeah.
Bible study courses, catechism studies by monks or monks reading something, priests doing the studies. I did a thing with Dr. Finister, a friend of mine, Alan Finister. I wanted to do something on the book just because everyone goes, oh, it's a crisis in the church. There's always been a crisis. So there's a book written by Philip Hughes literally called Crisis in the Church, and it's on all the councils of the church. So it's like, hey, Alan, you want to do a series on this? I thought we just do one. We did 16 or 18 on every council for 2 or 3 hours, and mostly him doing it because he loves that, and I just throw in something to keep people from falling asleep because it's not everyone's
the images.
I threw something stupid to say to get somebody to laugh, and I enjoy. Man, where are you going to find stuff like that? Most people would like to talk about the sexy, hey, the problem. There's always problem. Let's talk about the problem. Let's talk about this problem. Let's talk about this. We beat that dead horse. And I can't stand stuff like that. I don't want to talk about it. I'll give you I
appreciate that.
It's just let's build up piety. Well, one of the Redemptorists told me when a friend of mine bought me the website, I go, what am I going to put on there? I got a YouTube channel. What am I going to do? Put the videos on the website too? Now I do. I got videos on the website because there's a widget that you could literally put the daily videos on front of the website. So every day of the week, I update that so you can get your daily sermons going right to the website. You don't have to go to the playlist. Right. And so what? Piety. Okay, let's stick with that. So if it's pious in anything, history of the church, you see the website is. I got 4 different languages of Gamma.
No, but it's such a wealth of information and it's one of those things that's good for not just trad Catholics, but like new Catholics, old Catholics, people pondering whether to convert. It's just so rich and deep, and like if I'm sitting in front right now. I've got 3 monitors that I'm a writer. I work from home. And 2 of the monitors are for work, and one of them is to throw on a video on the side. So very often will it be, oh, I like the sounds of that one from Sensus Fidelium, and I'm throwing it on, and then I'll just end up like kind of pausing from my work, and oh, this isn't helping me work right now. But it's so fantastic, and there's some series on there. Oh, there's a few of them that are. Like there's like a 7-part or a 9-part series is Our Lady of Revelation. That one's fantastic. That was Father Wolf or no?
I can either confirm or
you deny. Can't say or just. I apologize. Okay, we'll have to fix that in post. but and that's the other thing. Nobody's chasing clout. That's the thing I love about it. We get to see Father Ripperger's name, and he's gotten famous through it. But for the most part, that's not what he's about. That's not like he is a very pious man.
I got so tired of the priest text me to say, "Can you take down that comment which got my name in it? That it's in the ban list. So if you type in the priest's name, it automatically gets banned."
I was wondering about that because so I'm still in contact with my spiritual director, who's an FSSP priest who was up in Calgary when I was there, and he's been moved since then. And a lot of times I'll be like, hey, I'm dying, man. Can you hit me with the good stuff? Can you send me your homily for this weekend? Can you send it to me? He's like, okay, but you can't share it with anybody. It's never recorded or anything. It's always just the paper of it. And they're very guarded about, getting those out, because a lot of these priests, that's just not what they want to do. And for right purposes, there's a lot of stuff to not trust about the internet. I mean, I mentioned about my priest up in Canada who got canceled. He used to have all of his homilies up online, and he had the backing of the bishop. He had a high role in the diocese, and then just somebody spliced out the last 10 seconds of a homily, and then it got out on the national news, taking all the context out of it. And it was so sad, because the thing is that the bishop threw him under the bus. He didn't help him. He didn't stand up for it, because the thing is that it was a homily on the rainbow and Skittles, and the the invention of the flag that is used for that. And so he was talking about that, and there was no hate in the entire thing. I saw it live. I was there. But people, you know, they leaked it, and
I've seen video. There's a couple channels that will take a sermon from somebody, and they'll just, because they like it spicy, and they'll get 100,000 views off it. But they ain't gonna put that same priest, if they do one on prayer, they're not putting it up. I'm like the opposite.
and
I don't care about that other one, but I'll take the prayer one. So
well, and that's
even have
the best way to
priests.
go.
I have a couple Byzantine priests on the channel, and they're what, 4% of the Catholic world, and they get nobody watching them. They get barely anybody going to their parish. But now they're on the platform with 270,000 subscriber people, and they're getting a huge amount of people watching for the first time ever. You know, what is this guy? Who's St. John Primacus? What's that? That's one of our guys. So I had two of them write me yesterday saying how thankful they are for being on me putting on the channel. I was like, see, there you go. It's, you know, whatever I can do to help out. I mean, just a Byzantine rite. I mean, if someone wants to go to that, I mean, that's a cool rite. That's, you talk about trad. It's more trad than the trads.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, you were your channel was such a good thing for us, especially during the lockdowns where we couldn't go to mass, and there was just all kinds of stuff that we were.
Dude, it worked out great that year, huh?
Oh, it was.
I mean, I had 4 parishes streaming live, Bible study courses on Wednesday. Obviously, the sermon's coming out. Yeah, we took full advantage of being able. How can we? And some of it were the priest's ideas. Hey, can we do this? I was like, let's do it. I have a green light for most all of them that do it. I was like, you want to do something? Just tell me. You're free to do it. And it worked out great for that.
I have I think it's the 1945 Father Lassance Missal. And all the time during Easter, I have to find my other, I have a 1959, which is still in line with the changes for Holy Week. And I'll never forget during the lockdowns, while it was really tough to just sit there in our living room and try to generate something out of watching things on screen, we got to see the old Holy Week in some places. I got to see stuff that I've still never seen in person, and it was awesome. I mean, it was awesome. We're just sitting there going, and I'm looking, I'm like, hey, it's in line with my book.
Yeah, the pre-55 had a good advertising that year. They had hundreds of thousands of people saw the pre-55 for the first time.
Hey, no kidding. And so, you know, we were able to keep up with it, but yeah, that was rough. That was a rough year. And you know, won't need to go down in too much of a rabbit hole, but I have a bad feeling that's coming back, and then that's coming back.
Check out Clown Planet for more of that. I got plenty of stuff.
Yes. Yeah. I'm going to go back on the replay, and I'm going to make sure I get the links to Clown Planet and all the other work that you do.
I got a press starting in a couple weeks too. So we're starting getting in the books here now too.
Oh, really?
Global takeover. It's a little something, a little something.
That's awesome.
minor thing. I got tired of asking people to publish other things. So I went, it's kind of the Thanos route. I guess I'll do it. I'll do it myself.
So tell me a little bit more about you. Were you a cradle Catholic, or like Catholic from the start? And then were you all along, or did you fall away like me for almost 20 years?
I think everybody fell away. We were in a do not care protocol for quite some time. Yeah. Still checked off the box, went to mass, probably bad. You know, maybe went into confession every so often, just to, you know, relay the 3 common ones everyone does, and just get in and get out. Just say you check the box off. And
it's funny you put it that way. I remember when I was explaining it to my wife when she was going through the conversion process. So she was baptized in the United Church and converted officially converted at the Easter Vigil in 2019. And it was like 1 year, I guess, 1 year ahead of Joshua Charles, the guy who wrote this or edited that Antichrist book that just came out. But I remember when I was trying to describe it to her before I was really deep into my Catholicism again, and we talked about it as in terms of checking the boxes. You know, I got confirmed, you know, but like I barely went afterwards because it felt like That's what it felt like. And
Mhm.
and when the last time I went to the Novus Ordo regularly, because I used to serve, I used to go when I came back into the church, the Latin Mass was really far across town. It was 45 minutes across town from my house in Northwest Calgary, and their Mass times were just brutal. I mean, they were like 7 in the morning, 6 in the morning. You know, I could never get to it for a weekday Mass. So I would go to this 8 o'clock. I would drop my kid off, and then I'd go to this. I think it was 8:30 Mass at the Novus Ordo by my place. And in order to, I know this sounds bad, but in order to make sure that Mass was served by a female altar server, I just jumped in and went, okay, fine, I'll learn how to be an altar server. And so I would serve Mass at least 1 or 2 times a week. And it was hard because I got to serve Mass. I got to serve Mass at the confirmation, and the bishop was there, and I got to hold his mitre and crozier during the Mass when he was out there. And I was so deflated because before, so it was one of those concelebrated Masses. I think they had 3 or 4 priests up there. And the Knights of Columbus were at the back, and I remember before the Mass started, they didn't know that this other priest was coming in. So they had to decide which of them, of the Knights of Columbus, weren't going to be Eucharistic ministers for this Mass. And they were bickering. They were just bickering like little children, you know, and they were, you know, I got here first, and I'm blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is awful. And I remember looking across the all the pews and all these people there with their, you know, all these kids with their sponsors, with their, you know, with their adult that was with them. And there's adults on their phones. They got ladies in cocktail dresses, and I felt ill. I truly felt ill. I mean, you know, I don't dislike my bishop from Calgary. I mean, I disliked his decisions about locking the churches down and banning communion on the tongue. But that day I was floored by how flat the homily was. And we're talking about sending young people out as warriors for Christ, soldiers for Christ. I know we got rid of the slap, but you know, you got rid of a lot. And this homily was so light and nothing. There was nothing. There was no fire at all in those hearts. And I'm looking across these pews, and I think about my own children. And I'm thinking about I remember I was walking out, and there was one of the adults saying to the kids, hey, you know, go grab your paper or whatever and meet me in the car. We got to get out of here. And it was just checking the boxes. And I remember I said to go ahead.
I was just listening when you thought about the sermon thing. I've heard priests use the sermons that have been on the channel.
Oh, really?
I've been in the pew before going, he took that from the channel.
That's awesome.
I don't care. Like, great, do it. But he literally was word for word. I'm just smiling, going, I wonder if anybody else notices that. But I've heard them so many times. I mean, to put something together, I might hear it 6 or 7 or 8 times, rewind, go back, try to get the right image to come in. Where do I want to go with this? And so yeah, when I hear one, I'm like, that's my baby up there.
But the sad part is that I instantly, when I was in the what's the narthex, and I see this guy tell this kid, get your paper and let's get out of here. You just got confirmed. Like, you just got confirmed, and let's get out of here, is the way he talked about it. And I instantly thought about it, and I thought about the parable of the sower. And my thinking was, you know, I'm trying hard to get my kids to be, you know, to grow in the faith. This is the weeds. This is the weeds. Now, you can grow through here, but you're going to get choked off by these other types of bad attitudes all around you. And there's so much you have to fight through just to stay faithful. We went to mass the next morning, and the priest there, because I helped with the catechism for a lot of these kids. I helped with the prep work for them, and the priest there. We went to the early morning mass, but still, it was the Sunday. So the confirmation was on the Saturday. The Sunday was the mass. The priest there is like, we just had a confirmation yesterday. That means we got a lot more people here that are, sealed in the Holy Spirit. Stand up, whoever was, whoever was confirmed yesterday. One girl, just one. Most of them didn't come back for Sunday mass. And in that same mass, the priest got cute. And at the, the Agnus Dei, this is the Lamb of God, he's holding up the Eucharist. But instead of saying it, the Lamb of God, he says, "This is Jesus." Mm-hmm. I was like, okay, but I said to my wife, this is our last mass here. We can't do this. We can't go here anymore. This isn't going to work. And it sucked because I had a lot of friends there too. Mm-hmm. I still kept going to a couple of the men's breakfasts after a while, but I mean, it was just what I witnessed from the Knights of Columbus was disappointing. And I brought this up to the pastor there, and I said, this isn't okay. We can't be changing the words of the mass. You can't be doing this. And we had Eucharistic ministers. Like I watched one sneeze over the Saborum. I saw the priest. This is the other thing. I don't want to totally turn off all of our Protestant listeners and agnostics, but we believe in the real presence of Christ. That is Christ up there in the Eucharist. And so the problem with the rubrics of the Novus Ordo Mass is that with the facing of the people, because any priest can have a slip up, but like when he was transferring the hosts from one Saborum to another, I always said it's like he's plating nachos. It's the worst. And one of them bounced off the altar, went on the ground, and like that, one of the Eucharistic ministers, who was in Knights of Columbus, quickly goes, grabs it, and puts it in his pants pocket. And I was just like, so many of these abuses just kept happening. So we were just like, I don't care anymore. We're getting up early. We're going to the Latin Mass. It's done. It's over. We're going there. It's the way to go. And I have your channel to thank for that, because the thing is I didn't even know that the Latin Mass was still a thing at that point, because it's not advertised anywhere. It's not, it's really hard to find any info on it. And sure enough, there was two in Calgary. There was the SSPX and there was the FSSP. I wanted to stay in the diocese.
I had no idea what it was. I had no clue what it was when the channel started. Took me a couple of years after.
So you kind of had you clearly come back into the faith big time. Do you have a testimony to share about your reversion, or what kind of brought you back in?
My brother was I got into politics, and my brother got into for Lent to do, since Steve's doing state related stuff, I'll do church related stuff. And he started Facebook, and was the thing. It wasn't tweeting, because we didn't know what Twitter was. He would write the saint of the day during Lent, and he started having a thing that maybe I got to call and be a priest. And people would watch his apologetic typing and contact me, and I'd be like, yeah, talk to him, man. I don't know. How arrogant for him to call the Catholic Church the one true faith. The best is well, you're an SEC fan. Is the SEC the best football program at the conference? And yeah. I go, was that arrogant or truth? So that's my first apologetics. And really it wasn't until he texted me up, said, ignorance of Scripture is ignorance of Christ. And that was kind of a foot to make me do something. And I read the next week, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday I was going, all right, what's next? And that was really it. And then I started reading after that. World's First Love. St. Mary Magdalene being possessed by 7 demons really got me. I was like, I didn't know that. What else would I not know? So I was watching Bishop Barron on WGN at the time. Catholic Answers, I think it was too at the time. I was just
These are
digging
the
deep
gateway
in all
drugs,
the,
aren't they? They're the gateway drugs, those apologetics. And
pretty
I
much.
liked Bishop Barron when I first came back in. I did. Yeah,
Yeah, he
I
had some
did.
good stuff on WGN, and I went
Mhm.
to he took me to a couple conferences when Steve Ray and Tim Staples came to Chapin, South Carolina, a little podunk town in South Carolina. Barely anybody went to it. Barely anybody was there. But I remember Tim being up there, and I'm going, man, he's ticking me off. He's a foreigner that came in. He knows more than all of us. Boy. It was one of those little challenges like
Oh
that. I
yeah.
got to get to that guy. I got to get better than that. So I don't know if that was part of it or not. It's just one of those personalities of mine. Like when I was playing basketball, I was going to make sure that I was going to. I had a quote from Bird. There's somewhere some kid is shooting 100 shots. I'm going to make sure I shoot more. And I was the same way. It was one of those. I might give up eating for the whole day, but I'm going to make sure I get my shots in. Or
Nobody will accuse you of sloth or effeminacy with that kind of attitude.
well, now it's what I mean. See, I'll get. Let's see, 50 links done on Monday for the Spanish side. I can't wait to get that over with. Maybe about 9 more months. And throughout the week, probably about another 70, 80 videos probably put up in the week.
Wow. So, okay, because you live in Protestantville, what are your kind of go-tos when it comes to sharing stuff with somebody? If you wanting to share the faith or help to bring somebody closer to the Catholic
Uber
Church.
was easy because they were getting into the car. I barely leave the house anymore. I mean, I'll go to the gym and I got if you go to the website on merchandise, I wear those shirts. He's got the
right.
So people will
Great
ask.
logo.
Like, yeah. I got the one with the rosary on there. Sic Vis Pacem Parabellum, and I remember one guy walking up to me. What does that mean? And if you want peace, prepare for war. He was like, dude. And it's not like a cheesy thing. I mean, I got the logo there, and the banner on the back, and the hardcore rosary on the front, and a little darkened out, and so I wear stuff like that around. I was at the Lowe's getting soil because I got a garden in the back, and I had a San Patricio shirt on. She goes, "What is that?" And I told her about the San Patricios for about 15 minutes. So it's one of those things. I'll wait for somebody to open up, and, they crack the door and we're in. But it's harder now because I barely leave. I jokingly say I don't leave the cell. I mean, literally, you read the Desert Fathers. They say don't leave the cell. I don't leave the cell. I'm doing this. I go to the gym. I come right back, or I go to
a lot of work. Yeah,
it's
a lot of work.
Bam! It's I'm to it. When the kids take a nap, they'll get up, and I'll take a break. We'll go play. I'll work, and sometimes I'll go to bed at 1 a.m. because I'll wait. After we get done here, I'm gonna go hang out with the wife, and then when she goes to bed, I might bust out another hour doing something else. So it's about 12, 1 o'clock, and I just pound. Let's keep going because I don't want to get behind, and two, get it out there and schedule things out. And if I run into somebody, but yeah, it's not like Uber when I used to see 10, 12 people, newbies, and they were in the car for 50 minutes and they were going to ask the question, and we were going to have a fun conversation one way or the other. And like when Advent comes around, you give away miraculous medals. But again, I mean, I used to do that when I was doing drive-throughs for in the car working. But now again, when I say I don't go, I'll shower, put some clean clothes on, and dress nice during the day. But really, I'll do some gardening work, prayers. If we go to mass, and it's this, or go to the gym, and that back and forth, maybe get some gas. I do not venture out anymore.
That's awesome. So your bandwidth is just stretched. It's just stretched to the max.
I try to find more things to do. Yeah. I'm nuts.
Oh, I love it though. Because you're definitely one of the most prolific channels. Your channel is just boom. Like it's impossible for us to get through all of it. And I can only imagine the amount of hours that you've listened to.
Let's say 70,000 hours have been listened to or something like that. And wow. How many hours of audio have I heard? I couldn't tell you. And I mean, that's why I got all these books, because when the priest says, listen and read this book, I get that book. And, Now I don't
Do
pay for
you, do
books because now all the publishers are sending me books to promote, which is great. And I'll turn them down if it's like a sexy book. I'm like, I don't care about that one. Let me get Silence. I want that one. So, hey, you read
yeah.
like, like not Pierre de Smet, but Leo Dupont, the apostle of the Holy Face. I mean, he talks about being crucified to the Holy Face at his house because so many people were coming by and he couldn't go do visits. He couldn't do trips anymore. So many people coming by. He just never left. So yeah, it's one of those, like Philip Neri the same way he called Rome his desert. And there was another the book on Thomas à Kempis's book on silence is talk about the saints and God did not care about the fame, fortune, money, all that, and glamour. And if you read the Litany of Humility and you really pray that thing, it says pray for me that I don't want people to come seeking my advice, or pray that, things like that. And you look at the other guys, not, calling them out or anything like that, but there's a lot of guys that want people to seek their advice. They want the faith. They want to be out there.
Well, that's something I've noticed.
You mentioned about my face being on there. It was one of those, like, had to do it. Like during the live test, like, I know this info. I got to get out there. The podcast where the idea, my wife told me, goes, this stuff. Stop asking other people to do it. You do it. So it was like, okay, well, I'm doing it because nobody else is bad enough to do it. And I might do it terribly, but I'm going to get the info out there. And so that was it.
I'm glad you're doing it, man.
Like that.
It's God's work. And I really appreciate you coming on to this show. Cause when I started this one, I trying to think about what exactly is the premise and in the podcast world, I mean, I've been listening to podcasts since they were invented. I remember when I had one of those iPod minis and I would just load it up when I used to drive a lot for a living. So I would just go home and load them all up and then put them on there. And, the most popular podcast in the world is Joe Rogan. Mm-hmm. And I used to listen to Joe Rogan a lot more back in the day. I don't listen to him hardly at all now. I mean, occasionally when somebody says, oh, you got to hear this guy or hear what he said on this one, and I'll catch the clips and stuff. But there's something to be said for his format. And the format that I like in that is that it is a casual conversation between him and his guests. He gets to ask his questions. And I like to look at his show as breaking into thirds, right? So a third of his shows are MMA guys, because he loves MMA. And a third of his shows are fellow comedians. And then the other third are usually either political figures or media figures or somebody that's interesting and stuff. So there's something for everybody. And, if he's turned more people on to MMA because of his show, good for him. So I approached this one with a third mentality. So I maybe I didn't mention to you before, but I mean, I come from, I work in writing now and marketing, but at one point in my life, I owned a pro wrestling company down here. And I did 40 episodes of pro wrestling show on Paraguayan TV. And I actually played a character. I was a wrestling heel manager on there because I was one of the few people that could speak both languages and knew the business. So my thought is, okay, well, I've got a bunch of buddies in the pro wrestling world. So 1/3 of my shows will be pro wrestling related. 1/3 of my shows will be Catholic related or faith-based. And 1/3 will be the general miscellaneous pile of either other YouTubers or other people that I find are interesting. But I find that if I can be a gateway for some people, because I know I've had people reach out to me, and I probably, just over the years, just from my old show, Here's What I Don't Get, I had at least a dozen guys reach out to me, asking me questions about the faith. And it wasn't until I came back to the show that I was open about my faith, because I had gone away, and it was during that period that I reverted. But hey, that's 12. That's not bad. That's not bad. If I got no, it wasn't for money at all or anything like that. If 12 more guys can come into the faith, and now they're in our Discords, and they're, we're talking about different stuff, and we're strengthening each other on this kind of thing. to me, that's all worth it. That's completely worth it. And if I can point more people towards your channel, even just 4 or 5, hey man, that's a good start. I know I've answered a lot of questions from people, and my best way of evangelizing is just live it. Just live it. And, don't be ashamed of it. When I say to people, I've got clients up in Canada and the United States, and easy way to do it is, they send me a text or an email on a Sunday, and I say, sorry, I don't do any work on Sundays. I'm taking the family to mass. Talk to you on Monday. Just that one little thing, or when I'm, on the end of a call, and God bless, have a good one, take care. And, because you got to destigmatize it sometimes, because you talk about with the t-shirt, a lot of times people don't know that just normal dudes have a faith. And that's kind of my goal at the end of the day, is to just destigmatize these things and talk about it just normally. And so I ask always one question. I've only had you're my third guest, but I'm going to make this a thing. I ask every guest the same question, because the show's called High Trust, Low Context. I looked into things like the High Trust Society. We're in a very low trust society in Canada, the United States, even down here. It's getting lower and lower and lower as we go. Low context means direct communication. It doesn't mean floofy, beat around the bush or anything like that, just directly. So I'm going to ask you a low context question. Who do you trust, or who or what do you trust, and how do you trust it? Trust them.
I trust my barber.
Is it you?
As a Spider-Man line. You don't trust anybody. I trust my barber. What do you mean? Who do I trust? What do you mean?
Yeah. How do you trust people? Who do you trust in your life right now?
I give everyone the benefit of the doubt until I catch them in falsity or something like that. But my circle is very small. I mean, literally only talk to a few people during the week. Day. I mean, your wife and kids are mostly definitely top, 1 and 2 time wise, but I trust the priest that, chat with me. Obviously trust them, God, when everyone worried about the church, I'm the first one to say, do you trust in him or not? Forget about it. It's crap out there. It's that whole Chaco thing. Good. Maybe we need a little slap in the face, a little water thrown in our face to wake us up a little bit, instead of acting like a bunch of babies. But I don't feel bad like this. If only. Yeah, if only you became better. Maybe that's what's needed. But no, we don't want to ever take responsibility for that. So yeah, no, I trust the circle of guys until the trust is a little broken. But my circle, like I said, is very small. I mean,
hey, you got your duty. You're on their pillar. You're in the desert there, and you're in the cell, as you say.
I got, it's my, keep prioritize and execute. Again, another Jacoism. Priority is getting, well, if it's work related, focus on getting work related. I don't know how these people tweet all the time. I mean, I'm so busy. You guys need to get busier. You're tweeting all the darn time. Get the stuff done, get what I need to do every day. I'm getting this done today. I'm getting this done today. I'm getting this done today. By the time the kids will wake up, I want to be able to get this done so I can go play with them. And then afterwards, do this, and this is how long I'm gonna be at the gym. I will be here from here to here. And I better get this done. And you get out of my, hey, you Facebook and get out of the way. Come on.
No wasted time. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's and Alphonse is a big one about not wasting time. So
yes,
my mom's side of the family hails from Naples. So
okay.
Alphonse right there.
There you go. So you said about the channel being connected to St. Anne. I thought that was interesting because St. Anne was the road that we moved to in Paraguay here. So we have a connection with her when we were at the end of our rosaries. But do you have a patron saint that you
it's like
lean upon the most?
I mean, on my wall.
Yeah.
On my wall,
you got a posse around you.
Oh, it is. Yeah, if I could take the webcam off and make sure it would fit back, I'd take it off and show you just a wall of 11 by 17s of. This is like when I grew up and I had sports figures on the walls. Now I got saints. So, I mean, I got Alphonsus de Laval, John Fisher, Pierre de Schmidt, Augustine, Joseph, Teresa, St. Louis, St. Louis de Montfort, St. Francis de Sales, Giorgio Frassati, St. Martin's up there. You got St. Philomena over there, St. Anne, St. Alphonsus there, later Divine Ascent, St. Stephen, St. Joseph over there, St. Thomas, St. Gabriel Garcia Moreno. It's like I said,
you're loaded.
I put more in, but I'm losing room.
You're never alone. You're never alone.
That's Galatians. You're surrounded by
Do you have a favorite pope?
Witnesses.
Do you have a favorite pope?
Not really. I mean,
no.
Not really. Everyone has the popular one is always the Pius V or 10th, but I
love the writings of Leo.
Peter, we'll throw Peter in there. Go from.
Oh yeah, of course.
Fisherman.
Yeah, there you go.
Terrible fisherman and just went on impulse and
and don't go by his depiction on The Chosen. It doesn't.
Never watched it.
Oh,
I don't have time to watch that.
I watched an episode and a half with my wife, and we were. I'm looking at her. I'm going, we can't do this. Like this isn't going to work. Like, and there's that whole thing of, like at least it's evangelizing the people. It's like it's not though. It's off. It's something off. Go watch For Greater Glory. That's a good movie for everybody to watch. That's a good one. That I like Song of Bernadette. That one's all right. And there's a few of them out there. I mean, of course, I'm not going to be one of those ones who talks down the Passion of the Christ. I like the Passion of the Christ. We watch it every Good Friday. But Steve, I really appreciate you coming on and having a chat with me here. And I'm going to make sure I put links to your website and to your channels. You got multiple channels too. I think we connected on Odyssey this time around. So
yep.
I'd love to have you back in the future if possible and keep up with what you're doing. But I really appreciate you coming on tonight. And thanks for joining.
No, very welcome. Like I said, happy to be here. Just next time, just let me know. I'll bring the chips, you bring the salsa, and we'll have some more fun.
I love it. Well, this has been High Trust Low Chaco. See, I'm still getting used to the name. This has been High Trust Low Context with El Chaco. Thank you for joining us. Ciao, ciao.